All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Captain Cody Davis hanging out with you guys again, as always. And as you can tell, we've got a little bit of a different backdrop behind me in this one. And that is because I am home doing household chores for the next 3 days because we are like 9 days out from Christmas Day, which is insane to even think about. They told me once I have kids that your time is going to fly by twice as fast, and they weren't lying. I don't even remember who they were, but they were right. I feel like December as a whole was just here 4 months ago, and it's already almost New Year's, which is, it's crazy. But I'm doing some household stuff, getting stuff ready for the big day. We're going to have family and everything here, obviously. And I've got my youngest at home with me, and he is out in the other room that I typically shoot my content in. Totally immersed in a Mickey Mouse episode right now on full volume. So in an effort to not disrupt him and not make you guys listen to Mickey Mouse in the background, we're just shooting this out here in the living room. But going to try my best to kind of keep it short and sweet with you guys. But I don't even know what the title was or the thumbnail was of this video. But we just got done wrapping up our 2-day championship, the Roland Martin Marine Series 2-day championship out here on Lake Okeechobee, where me and Kelly, along with 145 other teams, competed out on Lake Okeechobee for a $40,000 first prize. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was the lowest winning weight in a 2-day event that we've had in the last 10 years. Major event, right? Maybe a small club event or something had much lower, but these were essentially the best fishermen, the best teams out on the lake, really from the state of Florida, that competed in this thing. And it only took 34 pounds, 10 ounces to get it done. And that's with a 2-day aggregate weight. Leading into the event, I had said it for the last week and a half that it was only going to take 35 pounds to win. I got called crazy. I got said, no, it's going to take at least 42. Someone's going to find a way to catch 20 pounds a day. And I just didn't believe that was going to be the case, and it turns out I was right for once in my life. I did go out and say it was only going to take 10 pounds a day to get paid in the event, which I would think I was off by that. I think it took like 12 and a half, 13 pounds to get paid each day. Somewhere in that ballpark. I could be wrong, but 34 pounds, 10 ounces is a crazy low weight. But my buddy Chris Sherling and his partner Nagy, they pulled it off, and long time coming for them. I think Chris has gotten second in this event 2 or 3 times. He's not arguably, he's one of the best fishermen on the lake. He's very consistent. He catches giant bags of fish all the time. And it was awesome to see him win it. That was super cool. So Chris, congrats. Also, if you guys are in the area and you need your boat serviced, any mechanical work done, Lake and Sea Mobile Marine, give him a shout. I'll put his contact info at the bottom. He can fix your boat, and he knows how to catch 35 pounds of fish. So either way, but kind of before we get into what I think made the tournament so tough, I'll just give you a quick rundown on how me and Kelly's event went. Leading up to the event, like I said, I knew that this lake was in a funk like I have never seen. It was ridiculously tough out there. And that's what made me key in on how I knew that it was going to take a very low amount of weight to get the job done. Any of you that have fished with me over the last week and a half, you guys know how much we struggled out there to get bit. Granted, we were getting a big fish here and there, but every bite we had, whether it was 7 pounds or 1 pound, was just random. There was no rhyme or reason to anything that was going on. You didn't know when you were going to get a bite, if you were going to get a bite. Just nothing really made sense, and nothing really clued me into anything going on. Give you an idea how tough it was, and this is being fully transparent with you guys. My only true day to practice was Thursday, and it was a small craft advisory. It was blowing literally 30 mile an hour sustained. It was not fun out there, but I did go out. I knew I needed to find something, and anyway, I checked some stuff, and I ended up with a grand total of 4 bites throughout the entire day of practice, and that honestly made me feel fairly good and comfortable. You couldn't go in, you had to really scale it back in this tournament, in my opinion, at least for me, and just think about, like, Everyone thinks 25-pound bags, 28-pound bags on Lake Okeechobee to do well. And this was going to be a matter of just a bite was a big deal. Getting a bite, shaking fish off. Like, I didn't want to catch anything. I mean, I was really babying any areas that I thought might have fish in it, to the point where there were areas that I rolled up to check, and as long as I saw the water was stable, I didn't even make a cast. I didn't want to risk hooking a fish. I mean, it was that tough out there. Um, so me and Kelly devised a game plan. He was out of town. He got back in town late Thursday night. Friday morning, I called him. We kind of discussed a game plan, and that's what we went with. Uh, Ended up, really sticking to one area of the lake and just fishing what was in front of us. We only had 10 pounds both days, I believe it was, and ended up getting quite a few bites each day, a lot more bites than we thought we would, but they definitely came in little spurts. And again, there was no rhyme or reason to anything that happened. Shared the one area we fished in on Saturday was just overly crowded. Very hard to move around. I mean, very hard to even find room to cast, if as crazy as that sounds. But we were able to got into we were a late boat that day. We weren't due until 4 o'clock. So about that 3 o'clock hour, most people had to peel out of there. And we kind of had this area to ourselves for 30 minutes. And that's really when we caught our weight, which is crazy. Had an early boat number the next morning. We ended up running down to that same spot and started there. Kelly's first cast, he caught a 4.5-pounder, which was huge. And then, again, we caught a 4.5, and then just kind of picked away at some smaller fish all throughout the day. Weighed in fish on a weightless Senko, weighed in fish on a jerk bait, weighed in fish on a chatterbait. I don't think we ever even weighed anything flipping. A couple fish on a prop bait. Just, and in essence, we were really just junk fishing. And that's really what it took. And then when you got to the weigh-in, the top 10 teams the day before, they were coming from all over the lake. It wasn't like there was one area that you had to be in to do well. There were people catching them literally all around the lake. The problem was, or the deal was, though, they were just fishing in like little random spots they'd pick fish up in. And a lot of those teams that were in the top 10 had a 8 to 10 pound limit, but then, with 4 fish, but their 5th fish was a 6 to an 8 pounder, right? Which obviously helps their case a lot. Next day, like I said, the weights were very tough again, but my buddy Chris and Nagy, they ended up having 23 pounds, which was the biggest bag of the tournament. And they only had 11.5 pounds day one, and were able to still win the event because they had such a killer day two. I think Nagy caught a 8.5 and a 7.5 pounder their first 2 bites of the morning, so that definitely helps them help their kit, help them bring home the win. And yeah, it was crazy, but still 34 pounds 10 ounces to get it done, and it was just crazy tough. So everyone's like, well, what the hell is going on out there? Why is Lake Okeechobee fishing like this? Is everything dying? What's going on? And here's the truth of the matter, guys. Is the lake in bad shape? Yeah, it doesn't look great out there at all. But a big factor of this is we had 2. Well, we'll just go out and say 1 hurricane, but we really had 2. We were affected by 2 different hurricanes. What was it? About a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And not to blame everything on those storms, but we got to remember we got hit with some really crazy winds out here. And when the storms were passing through, we had sustained winds of 30, 40 mile an hour, and they were blowing from different directions depending on what hour you looked at the winds due to the storms passing through. We had the effects of the storms, and then following those storms, still to this day, we have not had a day. I should say, let's say this. We have not had a span of days, meaning more than 3 days, where the wind has not blown over 20 miles an hour. My Christmas decorations are banging against my front door right now. My flag is straight as can be. It's blowing sustained 25 to this day still. We haven't had that period of time where the water could settle. So all of these areas, I mean, you name it, from South Bay all the way up to Kings Bar, 99% of the water is legitimately just a mud puddle. I mean, it's just mud. and it's completely unfishable. On top of that, even if you said, oh, well, you can catch fish in muddy water, you might be able to, but you can't keep your boat out on the outside throwing a chatterbait or flipping in 3 foot breakers, right? So a large majority of the lake is just damn near unfishable and is unfishable. And then once you find these fishable areas, which are areas that the fish are flocking to go in and spawn, you have 5 to 25 boats in an area that can realistically sustain 2 or 3 boats fishing. And it's just making it really tough. You know, the fish are really locking down, getting lockjaw, and it's tough. Now during the week, typically, you know, obviously we did have a little bit of a funk this week, but you guys saw like my video the other day after that front. Me and Jesse had an awesome afternoon. Again, it was good timing, and we had the whole area to ourselves. There was no boat pressure, being that it was during the week. But during a 150 boat tournament, and you get boats parking on top of these fish, it does make things very difficult. On top of that, we have the lake's been very high. These fish have a lot of water to go and hide out in that we are unable to get to in bass boats. And like I said before, with the lake being high, you know, a lot of the water gets muddier. I've said it time and time again. A lot of people don't understand it, but the lower the lake is, the less water that's in the lake, the bigger the lake fish is. And I'm not even going to get into the whole breakdown of it, but that's just the God's honest truth. No matter how hard the wind blows, there's not enough water to get turned up to white cap, you know, in a lot of these backwater areas because of it only being a foot and a half deep, which means the water stays cleaner. You know, it's just a lot more stable. The fish are more comfortable. They roam more, and they're just, you know, you could spread out and fish. So a lot of you have seen over, you know, the news and things that I don't even know exactly who's all involved in it. I'm assuming the Army Corps of Engineers, South Florida Water Management. I'm sure some state government officials are in on this, but they are putting Lake Okeechobee in recovery mode from really, I think it was the 7th of December all the way to May. And what they're doing is they are essentially draining the lake or lowering the water level down to a targeted level of, I believe it's 11 and a half foot, trying to make it there by the month of May. Now, what does this mean for Lake Okeechobee? A lot of people are texting me like, is this going to hurt your business? Is this going to affect your livelihood? Yes, it is, in an amazing, great way. This could not be better news for us here around the lake. The lake needs it. You know, the lower the water gets, like I just said, the fishing is much better. And the lake's healthier. And it's also just going to help bring back a lot of vegetation that has been killed off here on Lake Okeechobee due to spraying, due to high water, due to hurricanes. A lot of these areas that we're fishing as of right now in a month are going to be unobtainable by boat. They're going to be dry or within inches of water, you know, from being dry. And then come to the month of May, they very well could be completely bone dry, which is going to help a lot of the sediment, all that gunk on the bottom cook off. It's going to expose the nice, clean, hard bottom, and it's going to make room and make for an area for new growth, new grasses, Kissimmee grasses, hopefully some eelgrass, peppergrass, all of our submerged vegetation that helps filter this lake and clean the water. Hopefully we can get some of that back, along with our cattails, our reed lines, our hard lines that we call them, can start to grow back and grow up and start protecting, essentially making protective walls outside of these spawning areas. For this time of year, when these fish move back there to spawn, we have a buffer, a barrier from blocking that rough water, blocking that wind in these areas to keep these areas safe and clean so that these fish, not only for our benefit, for us to be able to catch fish and fishable water, but also just for the fish's sake that live in the lake to have a great place to spawn and reproduce. So, great news. It's very you know, encouraging to hear because the lake needs this. And you know, in a smaller level, just on a selfish level, all of us fishermen out here are super excited for what this late winter / spring is going to bring, because it's going to be as of right now, it's taking 34 and a half to win a 2-day tournament. But I think come March, it's going to take that for 1 day to win a tournament. You're going to see giant bags of fish being caught. If the water keeps dropping at the level that it's dropping right now, I think like by the time the Elite Series guys get here, and we're going to be in that like 14 and a half, 14-foot lake, if the wind, we don't get hit with a cold front, you're going to see some crazy, crazy, crazy fish catches and some crazy bags get brought in. So keep up with the channel with that. I'll kind of try to document that whole thing when the Elite Series are here. I'm very excited to see what comes of that. This spring, you guys have heard me hyping it up. March, April, May. If you guys want to catch some giant bass, flipping a jig and throwing a frog, get your dates booked now. Everyone keeps saying, I don't know if it's actually going to get that low. It's dropping fast. All right, the lake level's dropping every day. I think it's going to get there, and you guys can experience some amazing fishing, catching 6 to 8 pound bass on a frog in 14 inches of water. So definitely give me a call. You guys can book a trip. We can get you in there. And so it's good news. It's all encouraging news for the lake. I look forward to seeing what's happening. It is in a little bit of a funk right now, but just for the simple reasons that I just mentioned. If this wind, I'm literally looking at it blowing the sugarcane flat behind my house right now, would just lay down for 6 days, a week, just blow 5 to 10 or 5 mile an hour for a week, it would just open up the lake so much. Or just be, again, we're not talking about fishing stained water. You can fish and catch giant bass out here in stained or even, quote, dirty water. But the majority of the water that we're talking about is mud. I mean, can't see a chartreuse spinnerbait an inch underwater, mud. You're not able to fish that. The fish don't want to live in that. And it's just cutting off a lot of the areas of the lake. So it's fishing very small at the grand scheme of things. But either way, it is what it is. I just got done watching Lee Livesey's video today while me and my son were watching it while he was drinking his bottle of him on Wheeler Lake. They were explaining how tough that lake is, and that's a very, very good fishery. Every lake goes through phases. Every lake goes through little cycles and things, and I think Lake Okeechobee's in one right now. But like my partner Kelly says, it can't suck out here for that long. And like I just said also, as tough as it was, my buddy Chris and Nagy, they still caught a 23-pound bag with an 8.5 and a 7.5 in the same day. Lake Okeechobee is a special place where that kind of, deal is possible and happens every single day. So either way, didn't like the low weights, but again, nowhere is perfect. But again, congrats to Alex and Chris. Job well done. As soon as he said he had 20 pounds and I did the math, I said he's going to have it 1, because if Chris says he has 20, he probably has 22 or 23. And he did. So awesome. It was awesome to see a lot of these big fish. I'll tell you another thing. A lot of these really big fish that were brought in, there were quite a few 7s, 8s that were brought to the scales. Beautiful, fat, healthy fish. I mean, that's what, some people were saying, did all the fish die? No, I mean, our fish, and I'm not just saying this, I mean, a lot of our fish, whether they're 2 pounds or 8 pounds, are some of the healthiest I've ever seen them look. Great color. I mean, they're just perfect fish. I mean, everything, I guess the lake is, the grand scheme of things, is healthy. All the fish that are living inside of it are doing great. We just need the water to clean up, the water to lower, get some grass back so we can start spreading out and not just beating up on these fish in such small areas. But maybe next year, me and Kelly will get it done. We got second 2 years ago. We just dropped the ball and we just didn't capitalize or didn't find the winning area this time, but it is what it is. But I think this Mickey Mouse episode is ending, so I got to go tend to my little guy. But I appreciate you guys watching. Again, if you want to get out there from February to May, whatever, if you want to get out there in January, the fishing's going to do nothing but get better from here on out. Give me a call. We will get you in the book. March through May is filling up very fast. All my customers that fished with me last year pretty much booked their same dates for this coming year. So I have availability, but it is about half availability for those 3 months. So if you guys want to get in there, give me a call. Can't stress that enough. That is the time to be here. But other than that, I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys subscribing. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And I will see you guys on the next one. Tie lines, guys.